Well, let's start with this. Prices have gone up.
Prices surging more than they have in 30 years.
The cost for just about everything is trending higher. The consumer price index spiking 6.2%.
Our experts believe, and the data shows, that most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary.
I mean, it's not that hard to understand when Dana said you pump $10 trillion into the economy.
If you think about inflation, it is what is driving financial returns for majority of the people that are making money in the market today. It is also the thing that is driving many of the people who are actually going into a worse financial position at the same time. Inflation is the key to finance and investing right now. Now, as we talked about yesterday, the CPI number hit 5.4% in June. That's the highest it's been in 13 years. If you take out the food and energy sectors, the core inflation number is 4.5%. That's the highest it's been in 30 years. We are at historic rates of inflation during most people's lifetime. The White House is smarter than you think. The politicians are smarter than you think. Inflation is raging at the highest levels we've seen in years. CPI officially is being reported at 5.4%. That's the highest that CPI has been in 13 years. Core inflation is 4.3%. That is, in June and July, the highest in 30 years. Now, when you have high rates of inflation, 4 to 5%, what that means is you have to increase the amount of money that you are making by 4 to 5% simply to keep up with inflation. That is the only way that you can protect your purchasing power. But now we have seen that the House of Representatives, your elected leader, are deciding that they are going to raise the maximum annual salary for their staff to $199,300. That's right. The staff for the House of Representatives, the maximum they can make now is $700 below 200 grand. That is up from $173,900. So what that tells you is that the House of Representatives, your elected leaders, the same people who are telling you, listen to the economists, don't worry about inflation, this is transitory, have chosen to increase the pay of their own staffers by about 14%. Chipotle, you're an hourly worker, you get 3 or 4% raise. You work at an investment bank like a BlackRock, you get 8%. But you work for the government, you get a 14% raise. And so what we are seeing is the classic. Don't listen to what they're saying, watch what they're doing. We have breaking news. The New York Federal Reserve just came out with revised inflation expectations. What are we thinking? The New York Federal Reserve now sees inflation still above 5% 1 year from today. They believe 3 years from today,
on a percent basis,
it'll be over 4%, and a series high with large expected price rises in food, rent, and medical costs.
The main thing you spend money on.
So basically everything you spend money on is gonna go up. Here's the craziest part. If inflation is still above 5% a year from now, that's 5% above where it is today, which is 5% above where it was a year ago.
Yeah,
we now are in compounding territory, ladies and gentlemen. Put on your helmets, strap in your seatbelts, do not talk while the pilot takes off, because we are gonna start compounding at a rate that you cannot imagine. The big news this morning is that the inflation numbers were released for September. As we have been telling you nonstop since last year, inflation is not transitory. The CPI number came in at 5.4%. This is a 13-year high. The CPI, the consumer price index, is as high as it was during the financial crisis. Absolutely insane. Core inflation came in at 4%. You see here, we have first the tweet, US September consumer prices increased 5.4% from 1 year earlier. Core CPI up 4% over year. We'll get to core in a second and the nonsense that is. But first, let's start with the consumer price index. 5.4%. Is that crazy? is it not? Well, let's look on a relative basis. If we look around the world at all of the different CPI numbers, their year-over-year percent change, what we find is that the US sucks. Simple. Just real simple. The US sucks. The only countries that are doing better from an inflation standpoint are Venezuela, Argentina, Turkey, Brazil, Russia, Mexico, and Poland. Today, the inflation numbers came out and we hit a 31-year high. This is absolutely historic, and it is frankly sad. Breaking, US inflation was up 6.2% in October from a year ago. The year-over-year change of consumer prices, according to the CPI index, is 6.2%, the official numbers. It's the highest inflation in 31 years. Inflation was up 0.9% in October alone, a much higher increase than 0.4% in September and 0.3% in August. Prices are rising for food, energy, shelter, used cars, and new cars. Absolutely bonkers what we are watching right now. We continue to see not only high inflation, not only persistently high inflation, but we are seeing accelerating inflation. It is getting worse. It is not getting better.
Well, let's start with this. Prices have gone up.